This meeting of the steering committee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect public health, safety, and welfare in the light of coronavirus. Do I have a motion? I have a motion, Commissioner Rather. Second? Second, Commissioner Reed. Roll call. Before you get started, I want to say one more thing. I apologize. Based on the resolution that this committee passed, and I believe it was in January, we have a vacancy on the steering committee. Therefore, the Chairman Pro Tem will be an ex officio, so he is going to be on here. He will be asking questions. He will be commenting, but he has no voting rights. So go ahead with the roll call.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Reed? Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Here, or yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
And Commissioner Cush?
Present.
Okay. And Chairman Harris?
Here. Now we're going to roll call on the motion for the meeting electronically. So Rachel, go ahead with that.
Commissioner Cush?
Present. Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Chairman Harris?
Yes. I would like now to approve the minutes. Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, I have reviewed those minutes. Those minutes were sent out April the 9th. All members of the committee received those, so they have had the opportunity to read those. I'll make that a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Do I have a second? Commissioner Rather, second. Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Stevens?
Yes.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo? Yes. Commissioner Cush?
Commissioner Cush? Proceed.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, yes.
Commissioner Rather?
Yes.
Chairman Harris?
Yes. All right, Commissioners, we, unfortunately, we have had a death of our commissioners with Commissioner Irving, and we have a vacancy. It is the steering committee to listen to the applicants and to recommend to the full commission. We have two applicants. We have Joyce Ely and Stacey Nunnally. Is Joyce Ely here? Ms. Ely, would you like to approach? How are you? Thank you for coming. Yes. Just tell us, and we'll have some questions afterward, but just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to take this position.
I hope you can hear me with all this. Many of you know me and know my work on the County Commission. For those of you who do not, my application documents my tenure on the County Commission and the various committees that I have served on. I have always considered my work on the County Commission to be my community service. And that is the attitude with which I come with this request, and I would be honored to represent District 19.
Ms. Ely, I have a couple questions. I've seen on here that you served on Budget and Finance when you were on the commission. And I'd just like to get your perspective on, we're in some uncharted territory with the virus. and we're going to be facing some revenue shortfalls. What would be your advice to commissioners with your experience as how to handle budgets? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Oh, I know. Well, as you commissioners know, the budget process is a long and arduous process. The mayor has been working on the budget for months now, meeting with department heads, trying to come up with his recommendation for the budget. As far as my recommendation, you are absolutely right, Chairman. This is unprecedented. In my experience on the Budget Committee, there were many years when we would say to each other, this is a tough budget year. This is a tough budget year. This is a challenge. This is unprecedented. Fortunately, we do have property tax collections, but the challenge is we do not know how to predict revenues for sales tax and revenues for hotel motel tax. So that is a moving target. So that is the challenge. Now, I do have confidence in the committee process and that they will be looking at each of the line items. And I have a feeling that we're going to be hearing things like bare bones, status quo, absolute need, needs above wants. But the priority has to be that we provide essential services for the citizens of Rutherford County, and that's the challenge.
Thank you. And I just have one more question. As you know, this committee had a very controversial resolution on the Second Amendment. Are you aware of that, or?
Well, as a private citizen, I did hear a little bit of that.
And I'd just like to know what you thought about that.
The Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, is part of our Constitution, and the Constitution is the law of the land. Now, I know there has been some scrutiny and some increased interest in the Second Amendment, especially relative to whether or not I can own a gun for my own self-defense. But again, it is part of the Constitution. It is the law of the land.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Commissioner Cush, Commissioner Stevens?
No, sir, I'm good.
Commissioner Stevens?
I don't have any questions for Ms. Ely. Thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
Mr. Chairman, since you took one of my heated discussions right there,
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Ms. Ely, we appreciate you applying and putting your application in and your dedication to wanting to do this. My question is, for your district that you would be representing out there, any areas you see in particular that you feel very strong for? Anything you see that is being needed?
Commissioner Reed, I do not know my new district lines extremely well. I don't know if you know, but I was first elected to the commission in 1990. My District 19 was very familiar to me, and I walked and knocked on doors in all those communities for those terms. I was very familiar with all those communities. When the lines changed as a result of my deciding that I would not choose to seek re-election in 2014, the only thing left in my original 19th district is my little neighborhood. So this will be new territory. But I have an affinity for that 19th seat because I spent so many years there. So I do have a very close connection to it, and I'm honored to represent that district.
Anybody else? Ms. Ely, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, we have a second applicant. Her name is Stacey Nunnally. Is she here? Okay. Well, that's all the applicants have. She's not here. So is there a motion for recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Cush. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion that we cease applications, and I would like to make a recommendation that we move forward with Ms. Ely as the representative to represent District 19.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Cush. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Rather seconds. The motion is to approve Ms. Ely and send her to the full commission. Roll call.
Commissioner Cush,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Chairman Harris.
Absolutely. Ms. Ely,
Chairman Harris, this is Jeff Phillips.
sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Phillips.
I'm sorry, I know I don't have a vote, but I would like to enter a present response to that vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Ely, you've been recommended by the steering committee. You will go before the county commission the second Thursday of this month for a full commission vote. Congratulations. All right, let's go to our next one on the agenda. This is to appoint Central Tennessee Solid Waste Planning Board. We have an appointment for a Joe Whitfield. This is an appointment by the mayor. I had looked this up, and the mayor appoints this position. So what it is we're approving his appointment to send it to the full commission. So do we have a motion to send this to the full commission?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Cush. Do we have any background on this applicant or the appointment by the mayor?
Yes, and I'll tell you what, Mike, I'm going to let the, it's not on our iPad, but I'm going to let, well, wait a minute. It's on our iPad, Mike. I'll tell you what, I'm going to let the mayor speak, and he can tell you a little bit about Mr. Whitefield. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had to take my mask off. It's hard to talk and breathe at the same time. It's like chewing gum, I guess, and walking. But Mr. Whitefield comes with a great background for my recommendation to this committee. Mac Nolan has been serving on that committee representing Rutherford County. Ms. Donna Barrett is the other person currently serving in that capacity that was approved earlier this year by this commission. And then the other slot is to be my recommendation to this committee and to the full commission is Joe Whitefield. Joe Whitefield is a Assistant Vice President of Facilities Services at Middle Tennessee State University. He has been in that position since 2015. You'll see on your share pad in front of you, he's been with MTSU since 1999. Prior to that, he was at Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Department of Energy Complex at Oak Ridge for about 8 or 9 years. He's a mechanical engineer. He's got his BS in mechanical engineering, MA in economics, and professor of engineer for the state of Tennessee. He has several publications to his name. And he is currently a member of the Rutherford County Solid Waste Authority Committee. He's an adjunct professor at MTSU, and he currently hosts 2 broadcasts. Mildly interested in the thinking bucket, which are focused on different facets of facilities management, organizational leadership, and economics, and I feel like a very strong background that can help in this regional issue. He thinks outside the box. He's matter of fact, has we urged him, went out and we took our risk management director out there. He has a program that manages all the facilities on MTSU's campus and sets it up on this software program about replacement of the roofs and when the vents need to be replaced and in each one of the buildings for a filtration standpoint, energy savings, et cetera. So he has a structural thinking mind that I think can help the other counties pull together along with Mr. Nolan and Mrs. Barrett representing Rutherford County. So that's my recommendation.
Commissioner Kush, you got that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. I am traveling and am not access to the SharePoint or SharePad, so I'm unable to see his qualifications. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion to send this to the full commission?
Mr. Chairman, after reading through this and you see the qualifications of Mr. Whitefield and you see his background, it sounds like something that would be pretty important and pretty vital in what we're dealing with and what we're having to do. I'd just like to make that motion to accept the mayor's recommendation of Joe Whitefield.
Second.
On the commission.
Commissioner Rather, second. Roll call.
Commissioner Kush,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo, Commissioner Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Stevens,
Yes.
Commissioner Rather,
Yes.
Chairman Harris.
Yes. All right, moving on. On the agenda, litigation list review. This was brought over from last month. Commissioner Rather had asked for us to have the ability to look at litigation, and I had spoke with the mayor and the county attorney, and I think just to kind of remind you, Mr. Rather said he'd like to see us discuss the litigation list quarterly in executive committee, in an executive session. I want to and we can discuss this. One of the things that I want to address is, and I was talking to the county attorney and dealing with executive committee, we're not allowed to discuss anything. Am I correct?
I rarely get to use one of these mics down here. Does everybody hear me? So that is a term that is okay to use, discuss. I like to use the term deliberate. What this body and also the commission body cannot do in an executive session is deliberate on legal matters. Executive sessions are really for the attorney to confer with the client, relay information to the client about the case. But in terms of deciding where to go in a case or whether to settle a case, those things are not appropriate for an executive session. Now, the governing body, like the county commission, can talk about those other things. For example, settlements or where a case should go or a commissioner's thoughts on a case. But that would have to be done in public, meaning at the actual commission meeting and not behind an executive session. So if the desire is to have the county attorney on a quarterly basis report to the commission on cases, it would be me coming to the commission and going through our litigation list and describing in more detail the procedural posture of the case, the current status of the case, and what maybe the litigation strategy and defense of the case is. But in terms of commissioners being able to say, well, I think that we should do this, or I don't like that we're doing that, those are things that cannot be talked about in an executive session. Those things could be talked about in a public meeting after the executive session to the extent the commission so desired, but that's the narrow exception to the open meetings laws is in this executive session. It's just me relaying things to the commission.
Commissioner Rather, this was your proposal, so I'd love to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if I can even say what I'm about to say. I'm trying to put this in the context of not our last executive session, because we're not supposed to talk about what we talked about in the last executive session. My kind of goal here, I think Commissioner Stevens had brought up some time ago about, approving settlements and talking about those settlements. And when I made the comment last month or month before, it was just an opportunity to maybe not even have a discussion about it, but an opportunity when we review this to maybe ask a question or get something clarified, not to get in and become an armchair attorney, so to speak, in the ball game of this litigation. It was just an opportunity to, okay, we see the list, but I've seen some on here for months and years, well, months, maybe a year or more, and I think a year or more. Just an opportunity to say, hey, why is this taking so long? Or, what can you share about this case? Because, just ask a question. At least have the opportunity to. That's where I was going with it. If there's I'm not a lawyer, so I didn't know if there was a problem with that. And if there is, that's fine. I was kind of taking where Commissioner Stevens was going and some thoughts that I had and thought, well, let's see if we can get in the middle or close to it and at least have an opportunity to get some updates or ask a question or two. And if somebody asks a question that's inappropriate, just tell them it's inappropriate and you can't talk about it. Thank you.
May I add something to that?
Let me add something to it, too. Thank you, Commissioner Rather. To my understanding, your job is to give legal advice to the county commission. Is that correct?
Yes.
So would you not be, can I not call your office and get all the answers I want to, if I have a problem on here with something? Are we able to call you and do that, or?
Yeah, of course. I've only been in this role since, it's hard to believe, it's already been a year. And I've got to know you all very, very well, and it's remarkable how fast time flies. But I like to think of the county as it's a very big entity. Okay, I report to the county commission, and the county commission is the one who lets me have the privilege of serving in this role. But I also report routinely to the mayor, and I talk to Mr. Sandlin on a regular basis. I interact with Sonia Stevenson and Ms. Nolan on a regular basis. I interact with employees of our various departments, PAWS, et cetera, and I consider all of them my client. And so that is inclusive of county commissioners. So if a county commissioner which many of you call me and have legal questions, and I speak to you about those and I advise you on those. With respect to the litigations, Mr. Harris, you're correct. If any commissioner wants to call me about that list and speak about the more intimate details about the case, the litigation strategy, what my thinking as the lawyer is, the posture of the case, I will be more than happy to talk to any commissioner that calls me about that. The point I wanted to raise is that I'm not saying or suggesting that the county commission will violate open meetings laws if they were to have these routine executive sessions. As the lawyer thinking about this, however, I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't say to you that by opening up that sort of platform, that you might cause unintended consequences. You might cause questions to be asked about what was discussed in the meeting, and it also will cause me to have to kind of dictate the meeting to make sure that we're within the narrow confines of our exception and we're not violating or deliberating. So in the interest of all transparency, I think it's important to have a line of communication with any commissioner who wants to ask about these cases. I'm just merely suggesting that if we create that platform, it might cause unintended consequences.
Commissioner Cush, Commissioner Stevens, I can barely see you. You're going in and out. So if y'all have something to say, just step in.
I have nothing to say, Commissioner.
All right. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I, too, would give some pause to how often and regularly do you want to go into, if it's a standard quarterly, is there really a need? Because if nothing has come forward during that 3-month period of time, and as you know, these lawsuits can take several years. And you may ask a question, why is it taking so long? Well, that's just the way things work, and that line of law, when things are let's say a class action lawsuit is taken up to the 6th Circuit, and by the time it goes through that process and finally gets a judge assigned to it, and they get it on a docket, it may be 5 or 6 years down the road. So all due respect to Mr. Christensen, is, you know, he charges by the hour. So I don't need to tell us any more than what we knew 3 months ago. Nothing's happening on that for a while. Don't mean to take money away from you, but at the same time, I would then come back and just I would yield to our attorney. If you have concerns about any one of the lawsuits that we're involved with, just call him and ask him, and he'll be happy to share that information with you concerning that and how it affects us. To do it on a regularly scheduled executive order, I'm not sure that we would benefit from that on a quarterly basis, because I think basically kind of the ones that we have right now, except for some smaller that can be handled in small claims court, but you have a lot of eyes already on that, starting with our attorney. Once a lawsuit is filed, you have it comes into my office, the summons does, it goes from my office to the county attorney's office. From the county attorney's office, there are copies that are made that are given to our insurance carrier, to our claims company that represents us, and to our Department of Risk Management. And the broker with the insurance company is also engaged in that. So there's an awful lot of eyes on it, making sure that we are protected and have the appropriate coverages for whatever the allegations are in those lawsuits that come before us. So other than that, I would just say be cautious. The more I get a little nervous, the more people who know about things that involving us having to pay penalties or in a lawsuit, the more people who are aware, it's very easy to have a slip of the tongue out fishing or in the backyard, and something says, oh, well, that guy, I talked to our attorney the other day, that guy never should have run that red light. There was a caution bunker there, and it's not our fault, but then it goes from there, and one of the commissioners might say something that probably didn't mean to, but once it comes out of your mouth, it's hard to retract it and reel it back in. So I just, at this point, I would yield to our county attorney for our guidance on sensitive issues that could cost us a lot of money. Thank you.
Well, I'll give you my thoughts. I agree with the mayor, but I also believe that Commissioner Rather has every right, if he wants to talk to the county attorney, he also, I think, has a right to ask the chairman of the commission if he wants to discuss our deliberate, I don't want to say deliberate, but discuss where we are on executive committee during our commission meetings. He has the right to do that, I think. So I agree with you, Mayor, but also I think that if he asks for an executive committee, sure. I don't think it should be all the time. I don't think it should be reoccurring. But I think if a commissioner wants to, get an update on where we're at on various things, I mean, this is me as a chairman talking. I don't see a problem with that.
And we haven't. When asked in the past, we've gone into executive session probably more than I remember times in the past. We've been in, what, three this year? Brought in some experts on one of the lawsuits that we're involved with.
Sure, and I think that the commissioner should request the chairman of the commission rather to put it on the agenda. So if, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick on that, 2 points. And it may be that if a commissioner calls the mayor's office and requests for an executive session, it might be something that the mayor says, well, why don't you call Nick first? Because I might be able to answer that commissioner's question right then and there. 2, just to echo what the mayor indicated about sometimes the longevity of these cases. Some of the cases that get filed for whatever reason are not expeditiously resolved because they're involving pro se litigants. So you don't have a lawyer that's representing the plaintiff on the other side. And oftentimes that actually provides more of a headache than I almost would rather have an attorney on the other side, so the case might not get prosecuted. Another example may be that you have really good lawyers on the other side that are fervently prosecuting the case and we are vigorously defending it. And when you have that sort of thing, you generally have competing dispositive motions prior to a trial, where one side is trying to get the win without having to go to trial, and the other side's trying to get the win without having to go to trial. Eventually what happens is the lower courts will rule on that motion. There will be appeals that are taken. Particularly in federal court, appeals generally take a very long time. There's court schedules to deal with, and there's other conflicts that may arise. Once the Court of Appeals rules on it, generally it sends it back down to the district court level. And the district court level then has to continue on with pretrial proceedings and ultimately setting a jury trial. So a number of the cases that we have fall into that pattern, particularly the Reeves case and Hamilton cases, which are the CBD cases. Those have been in a holding pattern. We have a dispositive motion on appeal trying to get immunity in the case, and that's been pending for quite a long time. The class action case of Gertz procedurally is very complex. The county has very good lawyers on that case defending it, and the plaintiffs have good lawyers that are prosecuting it, but due to the complexity of that case, it has taken a long time to continue moving it forward. There are also a number of cases that are on appeal at the state court level. There is the Griffin case. It's a Board of Zoning Appeals case where we were successful at the trial court level in getting a court to say that what the BZA did was correct. That currently is on appeal, but has gotten pushed back a number of months, due in part because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'm just using those as a couple of examples because I see that list too, Mr. Rather, and my job in my eyes is to prevent the best way I can of adding new cases to that list, but also sometimes lawsuits are just inevitable. So my other aspect of my job is trying to get the ones that are on that list to go away if I can. And if I can't before a trial, then we just have to have a trial, and you all know how that, it's like rolling the dice sometimes on it. But just wanted to add those comments.
Is there any more questions? All right, let's move on. Gentlemen, you have on your iPads and on SharePoint the litigation list. Is there any questions? All right, let's move on. Before we get to other business, there's something that I wanted to say. As a steering chairman, I was very close to Steve Irvin, and I'm still struggling to losing a friend. And I look forward to whoever steps in that spot, and to move on and work hard, and I know he would want us to work hard, and it's, the reason that I get emotional about it is because every single meeting I tell y'all how many people died from OD. Every meeting I tell you how many suicides. With this coronavirus going on, we had 11 deaths, and our economy has been completely just decimated by this. And what people forget, and there were 6 people that OD'd and died. There was 1 suicide. So I just don't want us to forget those people during this time. And Steve Irvin helped me write my education program. He was a big part of that. And I just want to remember him. And I appreciate y'all giving me that time. Is there any other business? Since there is none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Commissioner Rather, second? Adjourned.